Welcome to the second devlog about my simple resource gathering and management game I make with the Godot engine. In this devlog I plan to add new content like new resource types and also improve already existing stuff by writing my first shader. As the first new content I added two resource nodes and corresponding items, stone and coal. They work both pretty much the same like the already existing iron ore, so adding these two resources was really straightforward. First I prepared the textures for the nodes and the items. Now I just had to create the resource files in Godot and tell the resource spawning script about these new resource types. And now that everything works, we got two new resource nodes that bring a bit more variety to the world, but also add new items that can be used for crafting and buildings. As the next big task, I wanted to make gathering resources more satisfying by writing my first shader. Till now, when hitting a resource node, an hit animation with a white hint that was included in the asset pack was played. I wanted to replace this with an animated shader that tints the whole sprite white and applies a squish effect to the node. First, I think this would be even more satisfying and also makes it easier for me to apply this in the future to all resource nodes even when there is no pixel art animation. Besides some failed attempts, I had never before written a shader, so first I had to look into the Godot documentation to get a basic understanding of writing my own shader. After quite some hours of research, trying out and fine-tuning, I decided to go for now with this shader. When hitting a node, the sprite gets for a short time completely white, and the sprite gets squished 3 times. I think it is now way more satisfying to hit a resource node and gather items. The shader code itself is probably not the best, and someone with experience could have done this way better, but for my first try I'm really proud of it. Building onto the confidence I got from the successful first shader, I used the knowledge I got and wrote a second tiny shader. This time a hovering animation for the items that are laying on the ground. I also added a shadow beneath it. I think it looks really good and satisfying. Even though these two shaders are only a tiny thing, they are a really big upgrade to the game. I then went back again to adding more content, this time a new building. Now that more and more items get added, I think it is a good time to add a chest that can be used to store and organize items. Again I could use sprites and animation from the asset pack, so adding the chest was not that big of a task. I just had to create this simple UI. Use the same logic as for the furnace, but instead of the furnace UI, this new UI is shown when the chest is clicked. For now, chests have only a few slots, because there are not that many items and there is also no stack limit, so in theory, in one item slot can be an endless amount of the same item type. Later on I will probably add upgrades that unlock more slots for chests, or even different tiers of chests that have other resource requirements. The second new building I added is the workbench. The workbench will be used for crafting most of the basic items. I also added two new items that can be crafted here. First, some wood can be turned into planks, and second, iron ingots can be turned into screws. When placed and constructed, you can click on the workbench to open this UI. By clicking at the top, the selected crafting recipe can be changed. Right now there are only the two mentioned ones. In the middle part the required items are displayed, and at the bottom is the input inventory to insert these required items. When all items are present, the workbench starts crafting. That is displayed with the progress bar and also a squish animation, where we use some of the shader code I wrote earlier. After the crafting time has elapsed, the new item pop out and can be collected. I'm not really satisfied with the UI, so I will for sure change this at a later point, but for now it works. To add even more variety to the world, I added again a new resource node, but this time a bit different. The berry bush, like all other resource nodes, spawns randomly, but at spawn time with no or only one berry. Every few seconds there is a chance to spawn one additional berry. This continues until the maximum amount of 4 berries on one bush is reached. When harvested, the berry bush drops 0 to 4 berries, depending on how many were displayed. Berries can be used to trade with NPCs and later on probably turned into jam. The fish trap is a building that can be placed in the water, and randomly spawns fish or sand over time. I couldn't really find a fitting sprite, so I took this barrel and slightly edited it, so it now looks like a barrel with an open top that swims in the water. I also added a tiny squish animation when the trap is probably constructed and working. Sand can later be turned into glass. That will be an important construction material. The fish trap is a way to get some sand before discovering a beach or the desert at the top of the map. That's everything I have to show for today. A comment with feedback and a like is appreciated, and wish you a nice rest of the day. Bye!